Love is Blind, Season 8. I'm watching television on Valentine's Day, but old couples like me and my wife do things not necessarily on Valentine. We're doing something tomorrow. We're doing one of those paint and wine things. I'm excited. But on Valentine's Day proper, I'm watching TV with y'all. Let's watch.
I think I'm a very lovable person. I should be loved.
What's your name?
Molly.
Molly. Dave.
Dave.
So why are you here?
I haven't had a serious boyfriend, to be honest.
Ever?
No, not ever. I never have felt the need to have a boyfriend just to have a boyfriend.
All right, so they're playing the comedic, slightly ominous music tone. It's an interesting tone that the music is giving right now. Let me take notes on Molly. Okay, so Molly has already said up front in the lounge that she's never had a boyfriend, and then she says here, quote, "I've never had a boyfriend just to have a boyfriend." I wonder what she means by that. On one hand, it's like, you're 27, you've never had what's the definition of a boyfriend? I'm guessing it's a committed, exclusive relationship, typically. Or no, she's 29. I was looking at Monica. There's a lot of people, for various reasons, either because they just haven't met the right person, or they've been busy, or they don't want to, or they are aromantic. There's lots of different reasons. Or they have trauma, and it's really hard for them to get close to people. It's not a red flag. It's just a detail. But I think it is notable that she has inserted it.
I never have felt the need to have a boyfriend just to have a boyfriend. Because that could be easy if I wanted to, I would.
Wow, cocky.
Well, there's just a lot of guys out there that, yeah.
No, I'm...
So, wait, so are these two made for each other? I don't know. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that if you're 29 and you're just not interested yet to have a boyfriend, and you also want to make sure that you signal to your dating people in the pods that it's not for a lack of opportunity. And how do you say that? Because, you want to come across as appealing, and you might want to mention that. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I guess if I had some concern about that, I might just wait to mention that, because it's not something you necessarily have to say right up front, right? But another way to look at that is that it's bragging. Maybe she just lacks a filter. She's just a really honest person. She just hasn't settled down yet, and she also has had people say that they want to partner up with her, and she has declined. Nothing wrong with that.
And for whatever reason, we just couldn't get on the same page of making things work.
Okay.
What about you?
Oh, I also haven't had a ton.
Okay.
I've had a lot of girls I've gone on a few dates with. Never really introduced them to my family.
Okay.
I don't know if that was edited, but the way he presented those sentences is interesting. He kind of jumped around there. He said, I haven't really had a lot of in-depth relationships. And then he says, I've gone on a few dates with some girls, and I've never introduced anyone to my family. If I were to take a guess, I think what he's saying is he's never had a partner, a long-term committed partner, and he doesn't know how to word it, or he doesn't know what one, I don't know, or he has and he doesn't want to, I don't know, or they edited it.
A little about your family.
I had such a typical white dude growing up.
Sure.
I shouldn't have said white, but
Yeah. Well.
but I grew up born and raised Catholic.
Okay, who knows, but he is not following the guidelines at any rate regarding any indication of the way you look. But okay, and I don't know, but was that some sort of signal around class, in terms of social class? I don't know. It says something, but I don't know what it says.
Sure.
Went to Catholic school through high school.
Yo, me too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I had a great childhood.
Okay.
And then I guess I can share this because I don't know why, but my mom and dad aren't together because my mom passed away about 6 years ago.
He said that he had a great childhood. I'll take his word for it, but as someone that specializes in people with at least some of these red flags, that's not uncommon for them to say when it's not necessarily true. It's also not uncommon for them to truly believe that when it also wasn't the case. But I'll take his word for it. And then he says, typical white family, Catholic school. Is that also some kind of signal? Is that a rich person thing? I don't know. Catholic school. And then he says that his mom died 6 years ago. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks. It's one of those things she was diagnosed stage 4 breast cancer.
Okay, yeah.
And she lasted like 10 and a half years. So like we were lucky to have her for that long.
For sure, yeah.
She was just
Okay, so I'm thinking about the time span there. I'm also going to take notes on that. 11 years of fighting breast cancer. I will say that the way he is talking about this indicates psychological health. The fact that he's being vulnerable, the way he's saying it, the vibe. And then he is telling us that when Dave was 15 to 26, if I have the math right, that his mom was fighting cancer. I don't know what that says, but I just thought I'd take notes on that. Well, actually, I don't know about him. I'll just tell you, I think part of the reason why I make these reaction videos, and maybe part of the reason why some of y'all watch these, is to just get a glimpse inside of one therapist's mind. And this is what's in my mind. I would wonder if I had a client like this, if part of his admission around being superficial had to do with whatever he went through with his mom. Who knows? But just a scenario that I could imagine. It's probably not on the mark, but I've worked with people who have had similar traumas and the way it plays out. So I'm just telling a story that's completely disconnected from this. But we could imagine a scenario where you have a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old boy. He is coming into adulthood. He is starting to wonder about sexuality and attraction and bodies, and his mom is going through cancer. It's very traumatic. He might have witnessed things, struggle or procedures or scars or things were told to him. And you also think about breasts and how he now is in, I don't know if plastic surgery is a bad word now. He keeps saying medical aesthetics. He works in plastic surgery now, which has at least something to do with breast augmentation or other kinds of procedures, reduction. There's lots of other things that people engage in. These could be completely disconnected aspects of his life, or it is connected and he even consciously knows it's connected, and he's okay with that. It's not some deep, dark psychological secret of his. Maybe he even says, I saw my mom go through struggles of various sorts in addition to having mastectomies, and the doctor was great and I wanted to be like her, or the doctor was terrible and I want to change the system. Who knows? But in terms of development of sexuality and how you see yourself and how you fit into things, the unfortunate thing when children go through situations like this, when their parents struggle or die, even though it's not necessarily logical, children, and really all of us, will potentially afterwards be afraid of trusting other people because we're afraid of being abandoned and or the other person dying, right? Being taken away from us. So it's hard to open up. I don't know, but we could imagine a situation, I don't know about him, but someone else when they're a teenager and they're starting to date or they're starting to interface sexually and they have all that going on with their mom and they don't know how to deal with it. No one's talking with him about it. And he maybe starts to date a little bit. He gets a little close and it gets kind of scary. What if this person leaves me the way my mom might, it wouldn't be uncommon for a kid like this to wonder at any moment, is my mom going to be taken away from me? That's not uncommon, right? Who knows? But it's possible. So there could be some complications there, and some walls could go up, some anger. Actually, that's interesting to think about, is that one of the ways of coping with grief is to get angry and hostile, to put up walls and to attack things. And there's various different ways. You know, think of Manchester by the Sea with Casey Affleck's character getting in that fight at the bar, at the very least, or at the police station. Anyway, it's a pretty effective scene there. And, you know, because his character is going through grief because, you know, spoiler alert, the kids died in a fire, a house fire, his kids. And people deal with it in various different ways. And one of the ways that people will deal with grief is to establish power and dominance and control and put up walls because it protects the individual. In fact, I recently watched the movie Nora. My wife and I watched it, and whoa, what a movie. I think it is an amazing movie. I hope it wins the Oscar. I can't recommend the movie. It is stressful. It is not your typical movie. You know, it's made by that writer-director. I can't remember his name, but he made, what was that other one? The Florida Project. And it's not for everyone. It's sort of artsy, but it definitely has a plot, I guess. Anyway, one of the favorite movies that I've seen in a while, and one could argue if you've seen it, I won't spoil it. The main character, you could argue at the end when she starts to berate that other guy, that was grief, a grief response. It's a tough response. You know, it's like, I'm hurt and I'm hurting. And the way that I cope with it typically is to get tough and to get angry and to attack. And so maybe that's what we're seeing. Who knows?
It's very hard on me about like just doing the right thing, like having integrity. And like, I haven't always had that.
Wait, what did you say? What did he say?
She was just very hard on me about like just doing the right thing, like having integrity. And like, I haven't always had that.
All right. I think I should take notes on that. Okay, so I rewound it, rewatched it, make sure I got this right. I can't remember a time on this show, or any of the shows that I watch on this channel, where right from the get-go, the individual is presenting behavior that is notable, and then quickly, in the edit anyway, we are hearing things about their childhood that could be related. We can't know. But interesting. So he says, quote, my mom was very hard on me about doing the right thing, like having integrity. My mom was very hard on me. Who knows what that means? It could mean that he received it as a loving guide, or it could be even quite harsh. Just because his mom died and we might have sympathy for her and her struggle doesn't mean that she's not a jerk face. So who knows? I'm going to assume anything because we don't know, but there's a wide variety. There's a huge spectrum there. And given the way that he's presented, I wouldn't be surprised that some of the tendencies that he exhibits in the edit so far already existed by the time his mom was even diagnosed, but I can't know. He says, my mom was very hard on me about doing the right thing, like having integrity. I don't know what he means by that, of course, but typically what people mean by that is to tell the truth, usually. That's what parents are using that word for, integrity, or maybe not cheating, but I can't imagine that, well, maybe. But he is telling us that she's really hard on me about doing the right thing. You know, all parents, all responsible, loving parents are very concerned about guiding their children to do the right thing and not the wrong thing, do the moral thing and not do the immoral thing. That's normal, but not everyone would word it this way. So I don't know, maybe he's just really honest and he just is talking about normal stuff between him and his mom, but it doesn't sound like that. I don't know what he's referring to, and it almost looks like, which wouldn't be unusual, that he's still wrestling with the loss and he's still struggling or integrating everything that had happened prior to the loss. It's possible that as she was struggling or in her death, he decided I can't live up to my mom's strict guidelines, but now that she's gone, I need to show respect. I mean, everyone else is, and I'm a bad kid because she was critical of me, or she was upset at me because I didn't have integrity about something, and I don't know what to do with that, so screw it. I'm just going to be an asshole, and I'm going to even purposely be that way, because then I can just get away from this whole conundrum as to whether or not I have integrity or not. I don't know. Just speculation. And then he says, I haven't always had that. I haven't always had integrity. I wonder if he'll clarify what he means by integrity.
You feel like you still struggle with that at all, or?
I'm not gonna be perfect.
Right.
I'm just trying to be very like intentional with like things I say and what I do.
I love that, yeah. I mean, of course we're human.
People ask me like, why now? Why are you ready for marriage now?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, well, I don't know if it was just edited for time or if something was left out there that would have helped us. I'm guessing not, but he said, well, what did he say?
she was just very hard on me about like just doing the right thing, like having integrity. And like, I haven't always had that.
You feel like you still struggle with that at all, or?
I'm not gonna be perfect.
Right.
I'm just trying to be very like intentional with like things I say and what I do.
Okay, I'm going to take notes on that. Okay, so he says, I haven't been perfect. I think that was what he was saying in context anyway. And then he says, I'm just going to be intentional about the things I say and do. Intentional. That sounds like that's the way of coping with a lack of integrity, is what he's referring to. God knows what he's referring to. If I was to take a shot in the dark, it's about telling the truth or being good to people. I'm not sure. And he is saying I need to be intentional, meaning I need to think before acting. That might have been reflected in, was it with Molly or was it with a different person that he was dating? He said, I'm going to be nice to you now, if you remember that moment. And he's like, I'm going to be nice to you now. And then he stopped negging her, stopped being insulting.
I mean, of course we're human.
People ask me like, why now? Why are you ready for marriage now?
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, I definitely wasn't. My mom and dad, on my phone, I have like some videos of them dancing at weddings and like.
Stop, I have the same of my parents.
Really?
Yeah.
Not to like be weird.
Okay, I have to. I'm going to show a video that I took actually in Minneapolis, or near Minneapolis anyway, at a wedding for my niece a couple years ago. And my parents were dancing, and I thought it was so beautiful. And I even did a little cinematography that I may be showing right now, where I'm going around my parents. And they have been married for 61 years, going on 62.
We could do all that together.
Yeah.
I really like you.
Thank you.
I find it interesting that two different women have seemingly latched onto him, and latched on, that's a pretty derogatory term, have seemingly, from the edit anyway, vibe-wise, connecting with him. And we've seen that before in previous seasons where, at least in the edits, someone, I'm guessing a lot of audience members would say ick, but then in the pods, there is the opposite of ick. What's the opposite of ick? Yum? Yeah. And so, think of Leo, right? The way that he was edited, it was ick, and he had two women that were saying yum, right? There was Brittany and the other woman that I'm forgetting her name. And how did I forget her name? I need to, that feels not okay that I forgot her name. What was her name? Hannah. So yes, I have a Google Doc that has every season and all my notes from every single individual. In the early seasons, I didn't take any notes or much, so there's that. But I've learned subsequently that it helps, because later on, I'll find myself remembering things that I saw in earlier episodes, only to later realize that I had remembered completely wrong. And if I'm going to at least have some semblance of something to use as a jumping off point, I have to have, solid facts, data. So that's what I'm doing. I'm also maybe modeling how therapists and psychologists will develop a conceptualization. It's important to take notes. It's important to have a record of things, because to depend on your memory is just not reliable. It's not an effective way of keeping track of things, right? Anyway, so Dave. And by the way, on the title I say David, but he refers to himself as Dave, so I'm going to call him Dave.
People come up to me and be like, how have you never had a boyfriend? How have you been single? Like, look at you. And I always say like, oh, it's probably my personality. So we'll see. Maybe that is a thing.
I don't know what to make of that, but there's some questions there. And at the end, though, there was some self-deprecation. I wonder what she's referring to, but yeah, just notable. All right, well, let's adjourn there. If you like what we're doing here, then you can support us by becoming a YouTube member by clicking the join button below, or by becoming a patron on Patreon, or both. And particularly on either platform, if you're an upper tier member, and on Patreon, if you're an annual member, that helps a lot as well. Only if you can afford it, only if you care to. Regardless, take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.